You're watching the Chucktown Wind Report Extended Weekend Outlook from Thursday, October the 22nd through Monday, October the 26th. Alright, so we're still underneath this ridge of high pressure that's been over the southeast region pretty much all week long, as control has been shifting from the Appalachian high to our west and the the Atlantic high to our northeast. So the morning times we've been showing this northerly flow sort of fade as the gradient comes ashore off of this easterly Atlantic flow from the high pressure out in this vicinity. So that's pretty much what's going to happen again today. I think our winds are going to be weaker overall. As we did Tuesday, the gradient was tighter along our coastline, even down into northern Florida. And now this entire ridge of high pressure is starting to flatten and weaken. So we're expecting a weaker wind today, maybe 9 to 13 knots. Could see a pulse towards 14 knots before it backs down very briefly. But I do think that this high is going to weaken as a dry cold front drops down into the southeast region. Now, high pressure building in behind this is going to be sliding to our east. So what we're going to see is sort of an east-west boundary where we actually get caught below this. So tomorrow, this northerly flow from the Appalachian high pressure will hold up below the boundary to a certain point, and then once the winds usually drop below 5 to 6 knots, we start to see a southerly sea breeze develop off of a default ridge of high pressure that develops along our coastline. So tomorrow looks a little bit variable in the afternoon. I still think we'll see our light northerly winds between 5 to 10 knots fade, and then we could see a southerly flow or a variable flow below this boundary. So depending on its progression to the south, it's going to be saying whether or not our winds switch to the north behind it earlier or if we stay variable through the evening time. As we get into Saturday, this high pressure moves east and sets up to our north and then drives down a fairly moderate east-northeast flow down the coastline. So we could start out northeast and then bend east-northeast in the afternoon due to that backdoor sea breezing effect. But I think we can probably meet some mid-teens, maybe upper-teens values for a shot on Saturday and then weaken on Sunday as that high pressure moves out to the Atlantic and the flow sort of starts to back down. Now, as we get into Monday and Tuesday, getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, we see this upper level low very slowly moving off to the northeast, draws another frontal boundary across the southeast region, and behind that is another strong Canadian high pressure that will have our next batch of cool air driving down from the north, and we'll probably see some northeasterly winds really start to crank up mid to late Monday into Tuesday. Okay, so looking at radar, not much going on. It looks fairly dry. Clear skies right now. There's a few showers lingering offshore that are fizzling out before they reach the coastline. Most activity is staying to our south below Tybee Island, Hilton Head, down into Georgia along just south of Ossabaw. So I don't think we're going to see very much. Yesterday we saw a little bit of a short wave move ashore about mid to late morning time, and then that sort of weakened winds for a little bit. But today things look a little bit drier so I'm not expecting that to occur. Okay, so let's take a look at data scope for Charleston, and we're showing 8 knots in the harbor northeast, land shadowed 4 to 5 knots at Sullivan's Island, Isle of Palms, and Folly Beach. That's pretty much the norm. Let's take a quick look at the models for today. And if we look at our high resolution models, nothing's really firing off for today. All these models pretty much are in agreement for somewhere between 9, maybe 8 to 10 knots for pretty much this afternoon. I think we should always add a couple of extra knots for the backdoor sea breezing effect, because these models just don't pick up on some of the nuances of our coastline. And as we get into tomorrow, we see the winds weaken, maybe become a little bit variable into the afternoon. You can see the models all pretty much disarray of what the winds will be doing. Some pick up a south or south-southeast, some pick up a east, and some pick up a east-northeast. So it'll be variable. It'll be dependent on the progression of the frontal boundary. Either way, I think our winds are going to stay light. I'm in total agreement with the models on that. As we get into Saturday, this is where I disagree with these models. I think the winds are projected a little bit on the low side. I'm thinking mid to upper teens along a tighter gradient along our coast. And as we get into Sunday, things back down. And as we get into Monday and Tuesday, things pick back up with another high pressure. So that's pretty much the picture for the southeast region, is one high pressure after another dropping down. And whether or not those winds build from the northeast or east-northeast is completely up to the strength of the high pressure as it situates to our north and the gradient it builds between us and whatever troughing or cold front boundaries pass through the area. Okay, so quick look at the tropics. Not much going on. There's lots of upper level shear. No areas are circled by the National Hurricane Center. So fairly quiet out there as we get towards the end of the hurricane season, which is November the 30th. So that will do it for the Chucktown Wind Report, and thanks for watching.